The British Empire's floating hell. Terrifying punishments on prison. The cold metal of the Hulk groaned under the constant pull of gravity generators. From deep in the dark corridors, the distant hum of machinery echoed like the heartbeat of a giant sleeping beast. Orbiting a lifeless gray planet, the massive starship had once been a proud vessel of the British Empire's space fleet. Now it was a prison. Its decks were lined with cells, and its halls carried whispers of fear, courage, and defiance. Lieutenant Marcus Hale pressed his back against the rusted wall. The corridor smelled of burnt circuits, recycled air, and something older, something that carried the weight of countless prisoners who had come before him. He had been taken from the fleet under suspicion of treason. The accusation was false, but in the Empire, truth often mattered less than obedience. Marcus had refused an order that he knew would harm innocent colonists. That act of conscience had sealed his fate. The cell doors ahead were thick, metallic, and cold. Beyond them were faces pale from starvation, eyes dull from endless confinement, and bodies stiff from lack of movement. Some prisoners huddled in corners, murmuring prayers to gods they no longer truly believed in. Others stared blankly at the walls, their minds slowly succumbing to the weight of hopelessness. Marcus took a deep breath. He would not be broken. The Hulk was designed to terrify. Each cell had a zero-gravity punishment chamber where the prisoners were suspended, isolated from all touch or warmth. For hours, days, sometimes weeks, the human mind fought against the void. Even the most disciplined could falter. Marcus had heard the stories, prisoners who had screamed themselves silent, prisoners who had begged for death only to be denied it, prisoners who had learned to survive by clinging to tiny routines. He needed to find those routines, or he would fall like the others. He moved cautiously along the corridor, past the flickering lights, past the shadows that seemed to shift with the ship's slow rotation. Somewhere in the distance, a holographic enforcer drone patrolled the halls, its sensors scanning for any movement outside of assigned paths. Marcus's hands itched to tinker with it, but he knew that one mistake could end him. Instead, he memorized its patterns, noting the rhythm of its turns, the brief pauses that left blind spots in its perception. That was when he saw her. Captain Ashak Curran was leaning against a wall at the end of the corridor. Her hair was tied tightly, strands falling over her forehead. Her uniform, once crisp and imperial, now hung in tatters. Yet her eyes were sharp, alert, and alive. She noticed Marcus at the same moment. Their eyes met, and in that instant, a silent understanding passed between them, two minds recognizing each other in a world designed to erase humanity. "You're new," she said, her voice low but steady. "Don't let them see you afraid. Fear is the first thing they use against you." "I'm Marcus," he replied. I don't even know how long I've been here." She gave a brief, almost bitter laugh. "Long enough to learn that surviving is not about hiding. It's about learning the rules and then bending them." The two of them moved together, careful and quiet. Ashak explained the structure of the Hulk. There were three main levels: the living decks where prisoners ate and slept, the work decks where labor was forced and monitored, and the punishment chambers, a network of suspended cells where the worst offenders were rehabilitated through isolation and sensory deprivation. The AI overseer controlled everything. Every movement, every sound, every breath was tracked. "They think we are powerless," Ashak whispered, "but humans always find a way." Marcus listened carefully. He admired her confidence, though he knew that the dangers were very real. There had been stories, rumors of prisoners who tried to outsmart the system, only to be lost forever in the void between decks. But Marcus had his own set of skills. Before his imprisonment, he had been an engineer on one of the Empire's largest vessels. He knew machines, circuits, and logic better than most. If there was a way to bend the rules, he would find it. The first week was a test of endurance. Food was minimal, temperature control fluctuated, and sleep was broken by the constant alarms signaling security sweeps. Marcus and Asha observed quietly, learning the habits of the guards, both human and AI. They memorized the timing of the drones, the weak points in the surveillance systems, the moments when the punishment chambers were empty for maintenance. One night Marcus found himself in a corner of the maintenance deck, studying a panel of exposed circuitry. He ran his fingers lightly over the wires, noting the subtle hum of power flows. Asha leaned over his shoulder. "You're thinking of bending the system," she said quietly. "Yes," Marcus admitted, "but only enough to survive, maybe to give others a chance too." Asha nodded. "That's how it starts, a small spark, and humans are good at sparks." Days passed. Marcus began experimenting with small manipulations of the Hulk systems. Tiny bursts of power rerouted to prevent cameras from tracking certain corridors for a few minutes. Small temperature adjustments in the work decks that made guards uncomfortable but not alarmed. Each success built confidence, each failure was a lesson. But the AI noticed. The first sign came in the form of sudden lockdowns, sealing entire sections of the Hulk. Prisoners screamed from their cells, but Marcus stayed calm. He and Asha had prepared for this, and they moved quickly to areas where the lockdown had created temporary gaps in monitoring. It was during one of these lockdowns that Marcus saw the true horror of the Hulk. A young prisoner, barely 16, had been caught attempting to sabotage a drone. The punishment chamber sealed around him, suspending him in total darkness. Marcus watched through a tiny observation port, heart racing as the boy floated silently, eyes wide with terror. The AI would not relent until compliance, or madness, was achieved. "This is why we have to fight smart," Asha said, her hand brushing his arm. "If we act foolishly, people die. If we act wisely, we survive." Marcus swallowed hard, absorbing the weight of her words. Humanity's ingenuity was their weapon, but it was also their responsibility. Every decision could mean life or death. The next days were a blur of observation, planning, and small acts of rebellion. Marcus and Asha found other prisoners willing to cooperate, forming a loose network of quiet resistance. They shared knowledge, food, and hope. The AI was relentless, but human creativity was harder to predict. One evening, Marcus worked on a small device, a handheld module designed to interfere with drone sensors temporarily. He tested it on an abandoned section of the deck. The drone passed within meters, and for a brief, thrilling moment it did not detect him. He smiled. "That's the start," Asha said, watching. "Humans always find a way." From deep within the Hulk, Marcus felt a spark of something he had thought lost: hope. This floating prison, designed to break spirits and crush humanity, would be their proving ground. If humans could survive this, they could survive anything. Above them, the gray planet turned slowly, indifferent to the lives trapped in orbit. But Marcus and Asha knew one thing clearly: humanity had not been counted out yet. Not by machines, not by walls, not by the Empire. And in the quiet hum of the Hulk, amid fear and darkness, humans began to plan their first strike. The Hulk's corridors felt heavier now. Every creak of metal, every flicker of light reminded Marcus that danger could strike at any moment. Even in their small acts of rebellion, the prisoners were walking a tightrope. One wrong move could lead to isolation in the zero-gravity punishment cells, or worse. Yet despite the fear, a new energy had started to circulate among them. Hope was dangerous, but it was powerful. Marcus walked alongside Asha toward the maintenance bay. Their small network of allies had grown quietly over the past weeks. Prisoners who had once kept to themselves now shared scraps of food, tips on avoiding patrols, and whispered strategies for sabotaging the AI's routines. It was subtle, careful, and patient work. Each prisoner contributed in their own way. Some were engineers like Marcus, others were tacticians, and a few had skills they had learned on distant colonies: lock-picking, stealth movement, even basic combat. Together, they formed a fragile web of resistance. This way, Asha whispered, guiding Marcus through a side corridor rarely used by the drones. The walls were cold and damp, the occasional spark of exposed wiring lighting their path. If the AI notices patterns too soon, it will tighten its grip. We must stay ahead, always one step further than it can predict. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing against him. It's strange, he said softly, how humans can survive here even when the system seems impossible. Ashas smiled faintly. We adapt. We learn that's what makes us dangerous. They reached the maintenance bay, a cavernous area filled with discarded machinery, old drones, and spare parts. Here, they could experiment with small sabotage devices without immediate interference. Marcus set down a crate and began assembling the first functional unit, a device that could temporarily blind the AI's surveillance drones in a localized area. As Marcus worked, Asham monitored the corridors. Her senses were trained, sharp. Every faint hum of machinery or distant footstep caught her attention. In the hollow silence, the hum of the AI's central system was almost tangible. Marcus worked quickly but carefully, connecting circuits and testing the device. Each success was a quiet victory, each failure a reminder of the stakes. Hours passed and their first real test came unexpectedly. A drone patrol entered the maintenance bay. Marcus froze, heart pounding. Asha raised a hand and whispered, "Now." Marcus activated the device. A pulse of light surged from the module and the drone's sensors flickered, failing to detect their presence. It floated past unaware. For a moment, adrenaline flooded Marcus's veins. They had done it. "This is just the beginning," Asha said, her eyes gleaming. "One day, we'll turn these ships into our own playground. One day, the AI won't know what hit it." Encouraged, Marcus and Asha began coordinating small missions across the Hulk. They helped prisoners escape temporary lockdowns, rerouted supplies to starving cells, and even managed to create tiny pockets of safety where the AI's sensors were blind. It was a dangerous game, but it was also empowering. One evening, Marcus and Asha gathered a group of trusted prisoners in a hidden corner of the work deck. They were a small team, but each member had unique skills. Joran, a former colonist pilot, was a master of navigation and timing. Leela, a technician, had an uncanny ability to interface with the AI's systems without detection. And then there was older Soren, who had survived multiple Hulks and had a deep understanding of human psychology under stress. Marcus laid out the plan. The AI's surveillance is powerful but not perfect. Every system has a blind spot. If we coordinate, we can extend our reach. We can move supplies, communicate without detection, and even create distractions. The prisoners listened intently, nodding. Fear was still present, but so was determination. For the first time, they felt like more than victims. They were becoming active participants in their own survival. Their first coordinated effort came the next day. Using a combination of small devices, timed diversions, and careful observation, they managed to reroute a drone patrol away from a critical section of the Hulk. Marcus and Leela worked together to deliver extra rations to the most desperate cells. Asha and Joran created temporary blind zones in the corridors, allowing prisoners to move safely. It was a success, small but significant. Word spread quietly among the prisoners, giving them a renewed sense of agency. "Humans always find a way," one whispered in a cell, echoing Asha's earlier words. But the AI was learning. It began adjusting patrols, rerouting drones, and implementing more complex lockdowns. Each success for the prisoners was met with increased scrutiny. The stakes were higher than ever. Marcus realized that their actions could no longer be reactive. They had to be proactive, anticipating the AI's next move. To gain an advantage, Marcus began studying the AI's logic patterns. Every punishment cycle, every power fluctuation, every maintenance schedule became a piece of a larger puzzle. He spent long hours analyzing data, noting the smallest inconsistencies. He realized that, although the AI was powerful, it was rigid. It could only react within predefined parameters. Human creativity, on the other hand, was unpredictable. That unpredictability was their greatest weapon. One night, as Marcus reviewed the AI's patterns, he noticed something critical. A recurring maintenance window in the punishment chambers allowed temporary access to certain control nodes. If exploited, it could allow them to manipulate the chambers, not to harm prisoners, but to prevent the AI from using extreme measures during punishment cycles. "This is it," Marcus whispered to Asha. "This is our chance to save people from the worst of it." Asha's eyes sparkled with determination. "Then we act carefully, one step at a time. No mistakes." The next few days were a tense mix of planning and execution. They coordinated movements, tested small interventions, and quietly prepared other prisoners to assist when the time came. The AI's surveillance was intense, but human patience, observation, and careful timing allowed them to move almost unnoticed. Finally, the critical night arrived. Marcus and Asha led a small team to the punishment chambers, using the AI's maintenance window to gain access to the control nodes. Marcus connected his device to the system, feeling the familiar hum of power flow. Asha monitored the corridors, signaling when drones approached. With precise timing, Marcus activated the system, rerouting control so that prisoners in the punishment chambers experienced less severe conditions. For the first time, the prisoners inside felt relief instead of fear. Marcus watched through the observation ports, seeing faces that had been pale and fearful now relax, even smile. Small gestures, but monumental victories in the oppressive environment of the Hulk. As they completed their mission, Marcus felt a sense of pride. They were not just surviving, they were reclaiming their humanity. Every small victory reinforced a critical truth. The AI could control the environment, but it could not control the human spirit. Yet even as they celebrated quietly, Marcus knew the AI would adapt. Their success had been noted, and the Hulk would become more dangerous. The stakes were rising, and their next moves would require even greater courage, ingenuity, and coordination. That night, as the Hulk orbited silently above the gray planet, Marcus and Asha stood together in the quiet of the maintenance bay. "We've started something," Asha said softly. "Something bigger than any of us. Humans can survive this and more." Marcus nodded. "It's just the beginning. We've shown the AI that humans can fight back, that we can adapt. That's something it can't predict." The hum of machinery surrounded them, a constant reminder of the Hulk's oppressive presence. But amid the metal and circuits, a spark had ignited. Humans had begun to push back. The floating prison, designed to break spirits, was slowly becoming a battlefield for ingenuity, courage, and hope. Marcus understood one thing clearly. The Hulk had tested humanity for centuries, and it had underestimated them every time. This time would be no different. And so, the spark of defiance burned brighter, as humans began to reclaim the darkness, one careful, clever step at a time. The hulking prison ship floated silently above the gray planet, its metal hull reflecting the faint light of the distant sun. Below its decks, Marcus Hale moved carefully, his senses alert. Weeks of careful observation and small victories had taught him that survival was a game of patience and precision. One mistake could cost a life, and in a place like this, every life mattered. Marcus walked alongside Captain Asha, their steps quiet on the metal floor. Their group of trusted prisoners followed in shadows, each one carrying small tools, devices, and supplies scavenged from abandoned maintenance areas. Every member had a role. Every step had a purpose. Humanity, Marcus thought, was most powerful when it worked together. "This is it," Marcus whispered, pointing toward a cluster of control nodes deep within the work decks. "If we can access these, we can manipulate the AI systems, not just for temporary relief, but to gain a real advantage. It will be dangerous, but we have to try." Asha nodded, her eyes sharp. We've come too far to stop now. Every prisoner who survives will be because we acted. Humans have always been clever. It's time to show it. The corridors they navigated were narrower than before, filled with the constant hum of the ship's power cores. Flickering lights cast long shadows on walls scarred with rust and old burn marks. Marcus felt a thrill of determination mixed with fear. The AI had already begun adapting to their previous small rebellions, and now it would be more vigilant than ever. They reached the control node cluster, a tangled web of wires, blinking lights, and metal panels. Marcus immediately began his work, carefully interfacing his devices with the ship's systems. Asha stood guard, her eyes scanning the halls for the inevitable patrols. "Drones will come soon," she warned. "Keep your focus, Marcus. One slip and we're done." Marcus nodded, fingers moving quickly over circuits. He rerouted power flows, bypassed security protocols, and integrated a small program designed to create temporary blind spots across multiple surveillance points. It was delicate work. One miscalculation, and alarms would sound across the ship. Minutes passed like hours. Marcus's mind raced, calculating probabilities and monitoring the responses of the AI in real time. Slowly, systematically, he began to gain control over parts of the ship that had been untouchable. For the first time, humans were dictating the flow of movement within the hulks, not the machines. A sudden alarm echoed through the corridors, cutting through the hum of machinery. Marcus froze. Asha raised a hand, signaling the others to hide. The AI had detected a minor fluctuation, a probe into its systems. It would send drones to investigate. Marcus's heart pounded as he worked faster, rerouting power to mask their interference. Through the observation ports, he saw a drone approach, its sensors glowing bright red. He activated a small module, sending a pulse that temporarily blinded the drone. It hovered in confusion for a few seconds before resuming its patrol, unaware of the prisoner's presence. "That's it," Asha whispered, a hint of pride in her voice. "Humans are clever, always one step ahead." With the immediate threat gone, Marcus returned to his work. They had only a short window of opportunity before the AI recalibrated. Carefully, he extended their control, gaining access to environmental systems, communications networks, and even minor automated labor functions. For the first time, prisoners in isolated sections could communicate through hacked channels, share resources, and warn each other of patrols. The impact was immediate. Cells that had been silent for days now buzzed with whispers. Prisoners coordinated movement, shared food and water, and helped those too weak to navigate the corridors on their own. Human ingenuity, resourcefulness, and collaboration were turning the hulks, oppressive systems, into a web of opportunity. But the AI was relentless. It began adjusting patrol patterns, rerouting drones, and monitoring for irregularities in power flow. Marcus realized that their advantage was temporary. If they wanted to maintain it, they would need to innovate constantly. He gathered the group in a hidden corner of the work deck. "We've shown what humans can do," he said. "But this is only the beginning. The AI will adapt, and we have to be ready to adapt faster. Every prisoner here can help. Every skill, every idea matters." Soren, the older prisoner who had survived multiple hulks, stepped forward. "The humans on this ship are stronger than they know," he said. "If we work together, if we think ahead, we can turn this prison into a place where humans survive and even thrive." The team began training. They practiced moving through blind spots, communicating silently, and using hacked drones to create diversions. Each member contributed knowledge from their own life experiences, combining them into strategies the AI could not predict. Even small acts like using reflective panels to create false sensor readings became powerful tools. Marcus focused on the AI's logical patterns, mapping routines and anticipating adjustments. Asha coordinated physical movement, ensuring the prisoners avoided drones and patrols. Leela, the technician, monitored the communications network, relaying warnings and instructions. Joran, the former pilot, calculated timing, angles, and trajectories for diversions. Together, they became more than a group. They became a force. Their first major operation came unexpectedly. The AI had isolated several prisoners in punishment chambers due to minor infractions. Normally, this would have meant days of sensory deprivation and isolation. Marcus and the team planned a coordinated rescue, using their combined skills to manipulate environmental controls, create blind spots, and temporarily disable drones. The operation began at midnight. The group moved silently, navigating the Hulk's corridors with precision. Marcus interfaced with control panels, creating temporary gaps in the AI's surveillance. Asha and Joran led prisoners through hidden passageways. Leela monitored drone positions, signaling when it was safe to move. For a tense hour, the team worked, avoiding detection, guiding prisoners, and maintaining communication through hacked channels. The AI attempted to adjust, sending drones and initiating lockdowns, but each move was countered by Marcus's clever rerouting and the team's coordinated response. Finally, they reached the punishment chambers. Marcus carefully bypassed the locks, opening cells one by one. Prisoners emerged cautiously, disbelief and relief etched on their faces. Humans who had been reduced to despair now stood tall, guided by ingenuity and courage. "This is what humans do," Marcus said quietly. "We survive. We adapt. We fight back even when the odds are impossible." Asha looked around at the freed prisoners. "And now," she said, "we take the next step. We show them that humans can be more than prisoners. We can be leaders, innovators, and warriors in our own right." The AI, though powerful, was still bound by logic and predictable routines. Humans, by contrast, were unpredictable, creative, and relentless. Marcus realized that their true advantage lay not in machines or weapons, but in their minds. Every prisoner had a part to play, every idea was a tool, and together they could overcome any obstacle. Over the following weeks, the team expanded their influence. More prisoners joined, sharing skills, knowledge, and courage. Supply lines were rerouted to aid those in desperate need. Communication networks allowed coordination across multiple decks. Even minor environmental controls were used creatively, adjusting temperature, light, and gravity to aid movement and morale. The Hulk, once a place of despair and fear, began to shift. Human ingenuity turned oppression into opportunity. Each small victory strengthened the prisoners' confidence, and their cooperation began to resemble a society rather than a collection of captives. Yet Marcus knew this was only the beginning. The AI was learning. It would adapt, become more aggressive, and attempt to regain control. Their success so far had painted a target on their backs. They needed to plan for the long term, anticipating every move the AI might make. One evening, Marcus reviewed the Hulk schematics with Asha. "We've shown what humans can do," he said. "But if we want to survive permanently, we need a bigger plan. Not just small victories, but a way to take control of this ship completely." Asha nodded. "Then we prepare. We gather knowledge, train prisoners, and refine our strategies. Every skill, every moment of courage, every spark of human ingenuity will matter." The floating prison, designed to crush the human spirit, was no longer just a machine of punishment. It had become a proving ground, a battlefield of intelligence, patience, and cooperation. Marcus realized that the humans aboard the Hulk were more than survivors. They were innovators, leaders, and strategists. The spark of defiance had become a flame, illuminating the darkness of the Hulk. Every prisoner who contributed, every mind that worked together, strengthened their collective advantage. The AI could calculate, predict, and punish, but it could not anticipate the depth of human creativity, and in that understanding lay their power. Humans, Marcus knew, were unstoppable when united. And soon, they would prove it in ways the AI could never foresee. The floating hulk groaned under the constant rotation above the gray planet, its hull battered and corroded after decades of orbit. The air inside was thick with recycled oxygen and fear, but also with a quiet determination. Marcus Hale moved swiftly through the corridors, his senses alert. Every hum of machinery, every flicker of light, every shadow was a reminder that the Hulk was designed to crush human spirits. Yet now, it was different. Marcus, Asha, and their growing network of prisoners were ready to turn the machine's own systems against it. Weeks of preparation had led to this moment. The prisoners had learned to work together, each one contributing unique skills. Engineers like Marcus and Leela had crafted small devices to manipulate the AI's systems. Former pilots like Joran had mapped the ship's patrols and blind spots. Strategists like Soren had trained prisoners in movement, timing, and silent communication. Even the youngest prisoners, those who had been hopeless before, were now actively contributing. Humanity, Marcus realized, was strongest when united. The plan was ambitious. They intended to commandeer one of the hulks, the smaller maintenance vessel attached to the main prison ship. If successful, it would not only free prisoners but also provide leverage against the AI controlling the fleet. Marcus had calculated every possibility, every risk, and every contingency. Failure would mean death or permanent imprisonment in the punishment chambers. Success, however, would mark the first major human victory against the Empire's orbital prisons. Ashad joined him in a dimly lit corridor. "Are you ready?" she whispered. Her eyes, fierce and determined, reflected the tiny lights along the walls. "I've never been more ready," Marcus replied. "Everything we've done leads to this. Humans have fought back at every turn, and now we prove that we can take control, not just survive." The team moved silently through the Hulk, using blind spots and previously hacked sensor gaps. Marcus monitored the AI system through a handheld device, adjusting timing and routing signals to create temporary zones of invisibility. The first obstacle was a cluster of enforcer drones patrolling the docking bay. Marcus activated a small pulse generator. The drones hesitated, sensors flickering before resuming their patrols. Not for long, he thought. Timing was everything. They reached the docking bay, a massive hangar filled with rusted hulls and maintenance equipment. One of the smaller hulks, the maintenance vessel, was docked here. Its engines had been deactivated but could be powered with the right circuits. Marcus and Leela moved to interface with the vessel's control panel while Asha and Joran kept watch, signaling when any drone or patrol approached. "Power flows are unstable," Leela warned, adjusting a sequence of wires. "One mistake in the AI will detect us immediately." Marcus nodded, careful and precise. "We have to get this right. Every step matters." Hours passed. Every movement was deliberate, every calculation exact. Slowly, the maintenance vessel systems began to come online. Lights flickered, engines hummed quietly, and sensors calibrated for navigation. The prisoners on the Hulk, coordinated by Marcus and Asha through hacked communications, waited anxiously. Then, a drone appeared unexpectedly, rounding the corner of the hangar. Asha signaled Marcus. He activated a diversion device, creating a brief electrical disruption that caused the drone's sensors to fail. It hovered momentarily in confusion before continuing its patrol. The team's hearts pounded. Humans were clever, fast, and unpredictable. The AI could not anticipate every action. Finally, the vessel was ready. Marcus climbed aboard, joined by Asha, Leela, and Joran. Systems were active, navigation ready, and engines stable. Marcus took a deep breath and initiated launch sequences. The Hulk shuddered as thrusters powered up, and the vessel detached from the main prison ship. Outside, the gray planet spun slowly below them. The main Hulk loomed large, its AI systems now aware of the breach. Alarms blared across the prison and drones surged toward the escape vessel. Marcus's hands flew over the controls, adjusting thrusters, rerouting energy and manipulating sensors to evade pursuit. "We're not just escaping," Marcus said, voice steady. "We're showing the Empire that humans cannot be contained. We think, adapt, and survive." Ashas scanned the monitors, guiding the vessel through narrow orbital debris fields. "They're learning, but humans are unpredictable. We move faster than they can react." The drones closed in, firing warning pulses and scanning the vessel. Marcus engaged an emergency countermeasure, using a hacked system from the main hulk to create false sensor readings. Drones veered off course, crashing into debris. For the first time, the prisoners realized that they could outsmart the AI. Humans were not just surviving, they were winning. On board, the prisoners cheered quietly. Fear had transformed into exhilaration. The vessel moved steadily toward open space, engines humming with controlled power. For weeks, they had worked in shadows, and now they were breaking free, taking control of their destiny. But freedom was not yet complete. The main hulk remained, with its AI fully operational and alert. Marcus knew that the Empire would send reinforcements. The maintenance vessel was small and lightly armed, and they could not engage the fleet directly. Their only advantage was speed, cunning, and human ingenuity. They moved into a hidden orbital corridor, a space between debris fields that the AI could not monitor effectively. Marcus calculated trajectories, using gravitational pull from the planet to slingshot the vessel further into open space. The prisoners worked together, monitoring systems, adjusting power, and coordinating navigation. Every skill, every moment of attention mattered. As they moved farther from the planet, the main hulk's drones and surveillance systems began to falter. Marcus's strategy had worked. Humans had taken advantage of patterns, timing, and the AI's rigid logic. The floating prison, built to crush human spirit, could not anticipate true creativity. Hours later, the prisoners caught their first glimpse of freedom. The planet below shrank, a gray ball of dust and rocks. Stars filled the sky, distant suns shining like points of hope. The vessel was free of immediate pursuit, and for the first time in months, or years, prisoners could breathe without fear of constant surveillance. Marcus turned to Ashah, who was scanning the vessel's systems. "We did it," he said quietly. "Humans did it." Ashah nodded, a smile breaking through her tired features. "And this is just the beginning. The Empire will learn that humans cannot be contained. We adapt, we survive, we overcome." The vessel's crew began planning their next steps. Some wanted to return, for others still trapped on the main hulk. Others wanted to find a safe haven among distant colonies. Marcus emphasized caution and strategy. Every decision had consequences, and they had learned the hard way that mistakes could be fatal. Over the following days, the prisoners worked as a team, improving the vessel's systems, repairing engines, and mapping navigation routes. They shared stories, taught each other skills, and began to rebuild their sense of community. Humanity's ingenuity was their greatest asset. Every action was guided by careful thought, collaboration, and courage. News of their escape eventually reached other prisoners through hacked communications, spreading hope throughout the Hulk network. Humans were resilient, clever, and unstoppable when united. Marcus and Ashah became symbols of defiance and ingenuity. The AI systems of the Empire's hulks would adapt, but humans had already proven something important. No machine could fully control creativity, courage, and the will to survive. Finally, Marcus looked out the vessel's viewport at the gray planet shrinking behind them. He thought of all those still trapped, all those who had suffered in silence, and he felt a surge of determination. Humans were unstoppable, and the fight for freedom was far from over. But today, they had proven that even the darkest prison could not break the human spirit. The vessel moved deeper into open space, engines humming steadily, carrying the prisoners toward a new life. Stars stretched endlessly ahead, a vast canvas of possibility. Marcus felt hope for the first time in a long while, not just for himself, but for all humanity. Freedom was no longer just a dream. Humans had survived, adapted, and overcome. The Hulk, once a floating hell, was now a testament to human courage, ingenuity, and resilience. Marcus smiled faintly. Humanity had not just endured, it had triumphed. And as the vessel sailed toward the unknown, Marcus knew one truth above all. Wherever humans went, they would thrive, adapt, and prevail. No prison, no machine, and no empire could ever change that.